in the Mississippi fire. That leaves in the Mississippi choir. Black leaves on the Mississippi land. And we've got garden, we've got sons and daughters, we got grit and glory, we've got money stories, we've got strength like towers, we got hope and power. God made woman with an iron's hand, raised her up on heaven's land. God made woman with an iron's hand, raised her up on heaven's land. Strength like towers, we got hope and power. God made woman with an iron hand, raised her up on heaven's land.
Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowances made for fair use for purpose such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips in the balance of the favor of fair use. Have I gotten your attention so far? This year's Black History Month is a very poignant turning point for us. Have I got your attention? It was just not in Tulsa that this happened. Referring back to the last Black History bite that I did on Tulsa, Oklahoma, there has been a long history of white terrorism that destroyed Black communities across this nation. My fear is that history does not repeat itself. As we watch back, sit back and watch the events of this nation and the trajectory and the direction of where we're going. Like I said, things are going in reverse, people. Things are going in reverse. I hope you see that. I hope you didn't gaslight yourself enough or allow for any rhetoric or propaganda to reach you and to penetrate your mind to let you know that these things that we're overreacting. I don't know if any of you have actually ran into a place in the South where they had colored faucets and white faucets, colored bathrooms and white bathrooms. And being from the North and me going down south and experiencing that, and to be called the N-word, and to watch people from that area accept that like it was nothing. I was shocked and appalled. I was 13 when I saw that. And that changed my life forever, forever. But I digress. Today's Black History Bite is, it's not just Tulsa. Black massacres have devastated Black communities in Rosewood, Atlanta, and other American cities. This is the history of destroying Black communities. In present day, our communities in recent history have been devastated with drugs, and then turned out that our communities was ravaged with it. But that's another talk, another subject for another time and for another platform. Today we are recognizing these communities. Today we're recognizing them. Today we speak their names. The Tulsa, Oklahoma race massacre is now, due to the work of scholars and historians, a known act of terrorism. There are several documentaries and news stories have told the story about the 1921 massacre that permanently altered the fate of a successful community known as the Black Wall Street. In May 1921, a 17-year-old white girl accused a Black teenager of assault in downtown Tulsa, and white terrorism ensued. There have been countless reports, including the TulsaHistory.org, that 300 or more people were murdered in an act of bloody white terrorism. The media of the time downplayed the destruction of the prosperous community. The death toll was originally reported at 36. However, you don't have to be a forensic archaeologist to surmise that more than 36 people were killed. The Washington Post reported that a team of forensic archaeologists who spent weeks using ground penetrating radar at the sites, at 3 sites in the city, announced recently that they found anomalies consistent with mass graves that warranted further testing. The brutal massacre of 1921 and Black Wall Street was just one of many race massacres were commonplace and are blatantly and purposefully ignored in history books. Today we are talking about at least 5 of them. Colfax, Colfax, Louisiana, Massacre, 1873. Colfax, Louisiana, we speak your name. Despite some people claiming America was great for Black people 7 years after the Civil War, Black men and women were being massacred in plain sight during the Reconstruction era. One of the most horrific incidents that we know of was the April 1873 in Colfax, Louisiana. Approximately 150 Black men were murdered by white men with guns and cannons for trying to freely assemble at a courthouse. Sadly, the exact number of deaths are unknown because many Black bodies were thrown into what was called the Red River. I will be putting in the links in the description. As you see, there is a documentary on the Colfax, Louisiana massacre of 1873. Wilmington, North Carolina, 1898. We speak your name. By 1898, Wilmington, North Carolina was a thriving area with a majority Black population. There were also several Black elected public officials, forcing whites to share power. However, the threat of Negro rule created illogical white racial resentment. The media frequently reported erroneously that white womanhood was threatened by Black men. A Wilmington newspaper printed a speech by a Georgia feminist that read, "If it requires lynching to protect women's dearest possessions from ravening, which I think is the word that you're trying to say." No, they were trying to say raving. Raving, drunken, human beast. Then I say lynch 1,000 Negroes a week if it's necessary. By the election of 1898, Black men were prevented from voting to push out the Black elected officials. But the white supremacists could not stop the economic power that Blacks had already created. Therefore, they destroyed Black Wilmington with terrorism. The day after the 1898 election, whites announced the White Declaration of Independence. They overthrew the Wilmington government, destroyed the printing press, forced out the mayor, and the mob of white men attacked Black residents. There were reportedly 60 to 300 Black people killed by this act of domestic terrorism. For over 100 years, the powers that be in Wilmington tried to erase the massacre from its history. until 2000, when the General Assembly established the 1898 Wilmington Race Riot Commission to develop a historical record of the event and to assess the economic impact on the riot on the African Americans locally and across the region and state. The massacre is now in the state's historical record. Atlanta Massacre, 1906. We speak your name. Like many race massacres, the violence in Atlanta at the turn of the century began with the white women accusing black men of rape. Oh, the R word, I'm sorry. On September the 22nd, 1906, Atlanta newspapers reported that 4 white women alleged that they were assaulted by black men, a claim that was completely unfounded. In reality, whites were threatened by the upwardly mobility of black communities in Atlanta, which they believe were taking away their jobs. This bogus report of sexual assault drove as many as 2,000 white men to the streets. The terrorists went into black communities to beat, stab, and shoot any black people in sight. A disabled man was chased down and beaten to death. Communities were destroyed, and the unofficial death toll was up to 100. Elaine, Arkansas, 1919. We speak your name. The Encyclopedia of Arkansas calls the Elaine Massacre by far the deadliest racial confrontation in Arkansas history, and possibly the bloodiest racial conflict in the history of the United States. Blacks outnumbered whites 10 to 1 and were demanding economic justice, as many of them were forced into sharecropping. A union was created to protect sharecroppers, and by September 1919, there was a union meeting among black workers. Whites showed up to riot. As a result, 1 white man was shot and killed. Whites convinced themselves that there was a threat of black insurrection and reacted with violence. Hundreds of white men attacked black residents, but many fought back, including black veterans. Sadly, there were reports of over 200 black people, including children, that were killed. Many who weren't killed were arrested and tortured while in custody. They were forced to confess about an insurrection with 12 men receiving the death penalty. They eventually became known as the Elaine 12. With the help of the NAACP, their case went to the U.S. Supreme Court in 1923, and they were exonerated. This was one of the first times that the NAACP won a case in front of the Supreme Court. Rosewood, Florida, we speak your name. Similar to the massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in 1921, a black community was burned to the ground after a white woman named Fannie Taylor claimed she was assaulted by a black man on January 1st, 1923. The first person killed was Sam Carter, a local blacksmith. He was tortured and his mutilated body was hung from a tree. Sam Carter was one of many. There are reports that up to 150 black people were killed in Rosewood, Florida. After Rosewood was destroyed, a grand jury and special prosecutor decided there was not enough. There was not enough evidence for the prosecution of the white men who killed innocent American citizens. In 1997, the late great filmmaker John Singleton famously made the film Rosewood, starring Ving Rhames, based on the massacre. You could watch Singleton discuss Rosewood. Like I said, I will be dropping the links in the description. Based on various examples of violence perpetuated in black communities, Tulsa was not a rarity. History reminds us that although not popularly discussed, communities in Arkansas, Florida, Louisiana, North Carolina, and so many others were victims of racist violence based on economic anxiety and threats to white womanhood. These massacres are chilling reminders of how white terrorism of black lives is consistently minimized in history. We speak your name. We speak your name. We will remember Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. We will remember Colfax, Louisiana, 1873. We will remember Wilmington, North Carolina, 1898. We will remember Atlanta, 1906. We will remember Elaine, Arkansas, 1919. We will remember Rosewood, Florida, 1923, and all other cities and towns that were created by our people for our people that were not fortunate enough to make it into the records. We remember you and we thank you, ancestors. for always being there for us as we now stand in solidarity for you. Ashe.
Black leaves on the Mississippi River. Black leaves in the Mississippi fire. Black leaves in the Mississippi choir. Black leaves on the Mississippi land. And we've got cotton, we've got sons and daughters, we got grit and glory, we've got mama stories, we've got strength like towers, we got hope and power. God made woman with iron's hand, placed her up on heaven's land. God made woman with an iron's hand, raised her up on heaven's land. Strength like towers, we got hope and power. God made woman with an iron hand, raised her up on heaven's land.
I step up in the spot, big Dre on the scene. Tuxedo on like I'm Timothy $1 million man, I put you in the $1 million dream. I know some songs that'll put them sticks to your teeth. I know some folks that'll put the sand to your nose. The squad full of legends like the 92 Dream Team. My nigga, that's bad for your well-being. My third eye gets the supreme sentence. So when I got you in the scope, I'ma send you to a supreme meeting with the creator. That's what happens to a fucking hater who wanna spar with a gladiator. The Yaku Slayer, you know my style greater. In my city, rockin' fashion geek. You little niggas not even half of me. Your shit is trash to me, nigga. It's the Windy City, all they talk about is the violence. Glorifying stories of the chiefs of the shot, where shorties let them jeans fly. Where the Muslims on Madison with your bean pies, telling you to keep your dean right. That's why when I ride with that infinite light, so I can see the rooms at night. Because it's a new takeover, the rebirth for the culture. You ready to get ahead? Why evoke ya? We staying silent, La Costa Nostra, the Mac 10, a slow roaster. Marvin Hagler, nigga, I'm so ferocious. I had to get on the mic and get some over